I want to tell a story about something that happened last night at dinner with me, my wife, and my son, and it kind of broke my heart and filled it at the exact same time. Um, but before we get into actually what happened, I have to tell another story first, and so it makes sense. Was it 2 nights ago or something like that? I was laying on the couch and um, I was going to get up off the couch, and there's a muscle group in my hip, in my bad hip, that went into a full spasm. And when this happens, there's several levels. Sometimes it's just a little spasm and it's just some mild discomfort. But then there's the ones that were like it was 2 nights ago. It was agonizing, and I mean, it hurt so bad that I was actually screaming. It felt like it lasted a fairly long time. And to be honest with you, recovery from that, I'm still feeling it here 2 days later. When these happen, when these intense ones happens, I really have extra problems for a couple days. But while this is happening, 2 nights ago, my wife was sitting there. She's like, "What do you want to do? What do I do? What do I do?" And I'm like, "There's nothing that you really could do. I just pretty much got to ride it out." But I really didn't say anything. I was just yelling, and my daughter was there. I could tell, she was concerned too. She's like, "Dad, just breathe. Dad, just breathe." And it sucked, obviously. But my son wasn't around when this happened. I think he was at the park with his buddies. Last night at dinner, the subject got brought up about what had happened. And my son is like, "Well, what are you talking about?" Well, my wife and I explained to him what happened. And he started crying. He got real upset because he doesn't like his dad being in pain. And, because I live in pain every day, but these extra times where, obviously I'm yelling in complete agony, I'm really glad he wasn't there to see that, because I'm not sure how he would have handled it. Post it happening, he's, still got him upset. But, it gave me an opportunity, I suppose, to, I told him when we got in the car after dinner that, no matter what, but, I said, "Bud, I'm still the toughest son of a bitch, I didn't really cuss like that, but I'm still the toughest guy, I'm tougher than the toughest, And he's like, "Dad, but yeah, you would be tougher, even tougher if you had a good leg." And I'm like, "Bud, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And it was just kind of a moment that really it really bothered me, that my son worried so much about me that, it made him cry. But, on the other hand, it's also, shows me that he's a child that has a lot of compassion for other people. He has shown me and my wife that numerous times through conversations about his friends and things that go on at school, and just things that he hears in the news. He has a lot of compassion for that, and understanding. We ending up at the store after that, and it was I was walking down the aisle with him. My wife and my daughter were up ahead, and I just put my arm around him, and I told him, "Son, don't cry for me. Dad's gonna be okay. I'm gonna have moments of pain." But I told him, I said, "Bud, that's not something for you to worry about. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. And, but, don't feel bad for me, because I don't feel bad for me, I told him I'm blessed, and I'm very happy that I have an awesome son like him." I was walking there with my arm around him, and I told him that, and he's like, "Okay, Dad." But today, it made me remember something he said to me and his mom. I think it was like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that, to where he said, when there's been times where he's been in pain, but he doesn't say anything to me or to my wife or his mom because, you know, how basically how he, I don't remember exact verbiage that he said used, but he said something to the effect is, how can I have this pain? How can I complain about this pain when Dad lives in this pain every day? And of course, right away we told him, Bud, you know, you're allowed to have pain just because it's not a competition. There's no competition here. And, you know, and he shouldn't have to feel, and we told him, Bud, don't feel like you have to compare it to my pain. And obviously it's not something that I'm going through, but it's still something that's serious to you. And that kind of, you know, brings me to my next point, where people, you know, say to me, you know, it could always be worse. It could always be worse. But you know what? It doesn't matter. You know, that's not my story. I had a guy tell me that, well, you know, you could be like some of these veterans that come back with no legs or one leg or missing an arm. Yeah, that's a bad story, but, you know, you can't deny your feelings about something that you're going through yourself just because somebody else has it worse. You know, by doing that, by denying that pain, and you're really not doing yourself justice. You're not really doing anything constructive for yourself by saying, you know what, it could be fucking worse. You know, I can't complain because it could be worse. We all know it could be worse. But where do you draw that line? And that's what I think I really need to instill in him, that, you know, just because it's not the same as somebody else's pain or something that you're going through, you really can't judge it by other people's story, or gauge it by other people's story, because I think when you do that, you're really disconnecting from yourself, you're disconnecting from your own feelings, and you're not allowing to have those feelings. And I think that's where a lot of problems come in with people, is they like to deny themselves their feelings. They deny themselves their anger, their frustration, their joy, their happiness. You know, on any kind of emotion, people, you know, well, I can't be too happy about this because so-and-so might say this, or I can't be too sad because this guy has it worse. Things like that. It's just not conducive for a good, positive outlook of your life and how to make it better. Because if I'm constantly comparing myself to somebody else, or my son's constantly comparing himself to me, how can either one of us move forward in a positive direction if we're always gauging where we are by where other people are? Just can't do it. But like I said, it was a kind of a heartbreaking moment, but it was also a proud moment. You know, it's kind of one of those double-edged swords, because I was, you know, I don't like him feeling that sorrow for me, and to the point to where, you know, he's going to cry. But I'm also very proud of him for having compassion for his dad, obviously, but for other people in life. And that's just it. I'm done.